Shalom, everybody, and welcome back to Insights in the Parsha of the Week based on the teachings of Rabbi Nachman. Parshat Ki Tavo, in the Breslov circles, based on how Rav Nosson would write letters in this week, Ki Tavo, he would write Parshat Ki Tavo le'uman, when you shall come to Uman, because normal standards, people would begin to travel to Uman already from this parsha. So if Nosson, in a not a joking way, but in a interesting way, playing a game on words, he would write in his letters Ki Tavo le'Uman, when you come to Uman, writing to his son, because that's when the time is normally that the Breslov Hasidim would start traveling to go to Uman. In the main, people come before even. But in the main, that's when people begin to pack and go. And even till today, that's how it is. So this parsha has many things, serious things. We have like 98 curses at the end of the parsha. And in the midst, it says that the punishment is for a lack of simcha. Basically, a common theme throughout the parsha is the idea of simcha, joy. Let's take a look at the beginning of the parsha. We have the laws of tithing, of giving the first fruits to the Kohanim. There's what's called viduy and biur of maaser. That is, in the 7-year sabbatical cycle in the Holy Land, a farmer or an owner of land, during those 7 years, there's all types of tithes, maasrot, and bikurim, first fruits, truma, all types of gifts that have to go. Gifts or tithing that belongs rightfully to the Kohanim and the Leviim, and for poor people, and also for oneself to eat of that produce in Yerushalayim on the 3 festivals. Okay, so on the cycle of 7, there are 2 pit stops: the 3rd year, after the 3rd year, going into the 4th, and the 7th year, where a person, if by chance he still has any of the tithes in his home that he didn't have a chance to or give to the Levi, or to give to the Kohen, or to give to the poor people, or to take up to Yerushalayim. So he has to make sure by the Pesach, Erev Pesach, the eve of Pesach, after the 3rd year of the cycle, and of the 7th year, he has to make sure that all of it is given. And then, when he comes to the temple, because all the Jews had to have Aliyat HaRegel, all the Jews had to go to Yerushalayim for the festivals, including Pesach. So Erev Pesach, anyways, all the Jews would be in Yerushalayim. So while there by the temple, he has to do what's called viduy maaser. He has to confess, admit that there's no more tithes or anything that belongs to the tithing system. Nothing is left in his home. Okay? Part of the condition is he has to proclaim that he did it with joy. Let's go into this. The idea of maaser. There is the maaser of money that applies everywhere in the world, but the Holy Land has a special type of maaser in the produce of the land. The fruit and produce of the land must be given to, like we said, the specifications depending on the year. If it's the Levites, the Kohanim to get the truma, the poor people, or you taking it up if you're not a Levite or a Kohen to eat it in Yerushalayim. Okay, so the land of Israel has this special feature that you have to give off maasrot, trumot and maasrot from the land. This doesn't apply in the diaspora, only in the Holy Land. Diaspora applies the money, income you give, you have to give maaser ksafim. That applies everywhere in the world. Money, the tithe of money, no problem. That's tzedakah, charity, etc. But Eretz Yisrael has this extra factor that you have to give off the maaser from the produce. What's going on here? Rav Nosson explains the produce of Israel, the fruit of the Holy Land, believe it or not, are channeling blessings into the entire world. The fruit, the produce of Eretz Yisrael is so powerful that they're gifted, the fruit contained within them, all the 10 levels of holiness that the Eretz Yisrael has in it. It's reflected to, and the repercussion effect for the rest of the world is in the fruits and the produce. That's how holy the fruit of Eretz Yisrael is, the produce. It's something special. You're eating a cucumber in Israel and a cucumber in the diaspora. It's not the same cucumber. The cucumber of Eretz Yisrael It may taste the same, but there's a special holiness associated to it because it grew from the land of Eretz Yisrael, and the land of Eretz Yisrael is a conduit to connect to the infinite light, to the highest levels of holiness. That's why, number one, it's such a big thing to have the merit to live in the Holy Land. And number two, eating the produce of the Holy Land is also a big thing, okay? For this to happen, though, the Jew has to have the proper vessel activated for the produce of the land to give off that light and energy and bounty for the rest of the world. And that is through the tithing. We give specific tithes that go to the Leviim, like we said, that go to the poor people, that go to yourself to eat in the holy in Yerushalayim on the 3 festivals. All that is a way that fixes the produce of the Holy Land, so that it can then spread its holiness and energy and light to the rest of the world. Okay, that's how special the fruit is. So this procedure automatically involves joy, because, like Rabbi Nachman teaches in Likutey Moharan, lesson 24, to activate the infinite light, which by extension is the Holy Land's ability to transfer, bring this light to the rest of the world, the key factor for that to happen is simcha, joy. A person needs to be happy about his Yiddishkeit, about his connection to God, and that happiness allows the person, gives a person a brain power to run after and perceive the infinite light, and to create the proper vessels that within them he can contain the infinite light. The prerequisite is simcha, and also the gift. Rabbi Nachman teaches the result of having access to infinite light is also simcha. There's what's called initial simcha. Rav Nosson explains this in the Likutey Halachot, and there's what's called simcha yetera, the additional simcha. And all of life, the goal of all of life is about joy and reaching a higher level of joy, and the higher level of joy. That's all the tests and challenges we're going through, is for us to appreciate and have an experience of a higher level of joy. And then there's another one, because Hashem's goal in creation is to give of His goodness, and us receiving that goodness is expressed in our joy. That's a major key for receiving the infinite light, and by extension, the Holy Land requires simcha. So now, the idea of simcha in taking off tithes is that the mentality of a farmer or people who live in the Holy Land, who work the land, is that the mentality is that they're constantly reminded that everything is from Hashem, everything is from God. You're working for another reason. You're working the land. You're a farmer. You're bringing produce. Everything. It's not for that you should eat. For eating, Hashem sustains you. You're doing this for another goal. Hashem wants you to work the land in order to give off the tithes to the Leviim, to the poor people, to eat yourself in Yerushalayim, to the Kohanim, the Bikurim, the first fruits, etc. All that is what triggers the light of the infinite light to shine. And that's the whole mentality of the Holy Land. Until today, it's like that. That Jews who live in Eretz Yisrael will attest more than anywhere else in the world that they live off miracles. Even if they have a business and everything's under miracles, and everything is reminding them that it's up to, and then in the end it's Hashem's hands. This is true for everywhere in the world, but it sticks out more than anywhere else in the Holy Land. So because of that, there's a big obligation to give and parameters of how the tithes are given off, that they all have to be within parameters of simcha. So going back, when a Jew came to Yerushalayim on Erev Pesach, on the 4th year of the sabbatical 7-year cycle, so you'd have to do the bi, or the confession. And let's look into the verses, and we're going to point out a few things which indicate how far-reaching and necessity is the simcha in giving off the ma'asrot, the tithes, and showing the parameters of joy. So we're looking in Parshat Ki Tavo, chapter 26, in the second aliyah. So from verse 12, 13, 14, let's take a look. The verse 12 reads like this: Ki techale la'aseret kol ma'asar tevuatcha b'shana shlishit, shnat ha'ma'aser. When you finish giving off all your tithes, of all the tithes of your tevuah, of the produce of your land, from the 3rd year, the year of Ma'aser. So since we know there's plantings that you plant even in the third year that only are taken out and released and ripened by the earth in the fourth year. Rashi points out many produce from the third year only come out after Sukkot of the fourth year cycle. And so then what's the case? The end of the produce of the third year you have up to the end of that winter period, which ends by Pesach. So that's why Pesach is determined is the point where this is the end point of any produce of the third year, because it goes into the fourth year. So we can conclude that by Pesach everything is done. There's no more waiting for crops to come out, to be ripened and to be harvested. Everything is finished by Pesach for sure, definitely. Okay, so when you finish taking off the tithes of the produce of the tevuah, of the tithing of the produce of the land, of the Holy Land, of the third year cycle, which is the year of Maaser, and you gave to the Levi, v'natata leLevi, you gave to the Levi, the Levite, the proper tithes that belong to the Levi, lager, le'aton, v'amana, to the ger. These are sojourners, non-Jews, who are living in the land and respect the Torah. They don't have to observe it, they respect, and they're poor people. You give to them also, to the orphans, to the widows, because they're priority. There's other poor people also, but these are priority. Okay, and you gave them the Maaser Ani for the poor people. V'achlu otam bisharecha v'saveu, and they should eat. You made sure that you gave all your tithes. So Levi has what to eat. The ger, the yatom, the almana, right? The orphan, the widow, the convert, or the person who's coming, the Gentile living in the land, they ate, and they're also satisfied with what they eat, because you have to make sure you give them enough, not just like a little thing and the guy's still starving. You have to make sure that you give enough. So once that's done, and you know that you finished, you gave off all the maasot from the 3 years, first, second year, third year, nothing's left in your house. No grains, no dried fruits, everything was given. Everything was given. So then you do the confession. Verse number 13. And you say before Hashem your Lord, because you're standing in the temple by the Beit HaMikdash there, Erev Pesach in Yerushalayim, Bi'arti HaKodesh min habayit, I already removed, I was leva'er, there's no trace of anything holy. Holy are what's the term used for the tithes, because they're considered holy. They're not for you. They're sanctified for those who they're designated for, so they have holiness attached to them. I've now removed anything holy, any tithes that are holy, min habayit, from my home. V'gam netativ la'levi, and I also gave to the Levite what he deserves, the Maaser Rishon. And lager la'atom v'amana, and to the sojourner or the convert, and to the orphans and the widows. I gave to them kechol mitzvatecha asher tzivitani. We'll just read by the little translation. According to the law and the mitzvah, how it has to be done, like you, Hashem, commanded me to do. Okay? And then in the confession, he lists, the person has to confess what's called the 5 no's. The 5 no-nos. Number 1, lo avarti mi mitzvotecha. I did not pass over your mitzvah. What does it mean, lo avarti mitzvotecha? Rashi explains, I didn't remove tithes on one crop, on one type of crop, like say corn or whatever, on another type of crop. Al min she'eno mino. I didn't switch. I didn't take off, okay, let's take off the apples for the pears, or the oranges for the strawberries. You're not allowed to do that. The tithe has to come from the fruit itself. You have strawberries, you have to take the tithe from the strawberries. No, okay, I'll take from other produce. No, it has to be from that crop itself. So lo avarti, I didn't pass over, la avor, I didn't skip, I didn't try to switch, taking the tithes from somewhere else. I went in the crop itself and took off the tithes. So that's the first no. So I did not do that. Lo avarti mitzvotecha. Number 2, velo shachachti, and I didn't forget. What does it mean I didn't forget? So Rashi says, lo shachachti milavarechecha. I didn't forget to bless you when taking off the tithes, because there's a special blessing to say when you take off the maasrot. Till today, there's a blessing that we say, okay? And I didn't forget, like Rashi says, I didn't forget Hashem to bless you, to praise you. You have to bless, praise Hashem. That's the second no. Verse 14, continuing the 5 no's. No number 3, lo achalti ve'oni mimenu. I didn't eat, because there's the tithe that you yourself have to bring up. It's called Maaser Sheni. There's certain years that have Maaser Ani, that the second tithe goes to the poor people. And there's certain years that no, it doesn't go to the poor people. It goes to you eating it in Yerushalayim. So now when you come to eat in Yerushalayim, you're not allowed to be a mourner when eating it. If you have someone in the family who died, it's forbidden to eat from it there. Lo achalti be'oni mimenu. I did not eat from the maaser when I was in onen. Onen is the term of someone in between the death of a family member and the burial. And all the more, and that continues. When I'm in onen, it's a bad stage. It's a mourning stage, and it's not proper to eat something which is consecrated when you're in a mourning state. It doesn't make sense on an even rational level. But it's halacha, it's a law. And he's saying that the third number, the no, is I didn't eat from it when I was a mourner. Min aninut. Number 4, velo vi'arti mimenu betameh. Okay, lo vi'arti mimenu betameh. What does it mean? I didn't get rid of the maaser while I was impure. Betameh, in impurity. So Rashi says what? In other words, I didn't get rid of the maaser when I was impure and it's pure. So if I'm impure, let's say the person was impure by body contact with impurity, and he now wants to touch the maaser, but by touching it, he makes it impure. That the kohanim can't eat the leviim, you're not to do that. There's certain, not today, but at the time of the temple, there's certain levels of impurity that are passed by in contact that now render the food unfit to eat when impure. So now the Torah is requiring that the ma'asrot be eaten in a pure state. Okay, there's many details, of course, that we can't go into right now because we're limited in the class. But in general, that there is a preferred state that the maaser be taken off and given in a pure state. So he's saying lo bi'arti menu betameh. Rashi says that if I was impure and the produce was pure, or vice versa, that the produce was impure and I'm pure and that'll render me pure, neither of that happened. I made sure that everything was done on tahara. If it's a kohen who has to eat it, for example, truma, you're not allowed to make it impure at all. No way. It has to be eaten in such a high level of standard of holiness and purity according to the Torah's parameters and laws. Okay? That's number 4. That's the number 4 no. So again, lo vi'arti mimenu betameh. And the final one, number 5, velo natati mimenu lemet. And I didn't give the ma'aser, the tithes, for a dead person. What does that mean? So Rashi explains, to sell the produce of the maaser and buy with that money a coffin and shrouds for a deceased person. Again, on a logical level, you don't do that. You don't take something which is consecrated, because the maaser is you're taking it off for the sake of Hashem, and Hashem decides they're eating from my table. You give the Levite, it's from my table. You give the poor people, it's from my table. You eat the produce in Yerushalayim on the 3 festivals, you're eating from my table. So it's not proper to take from Hashem's, what was consecrated for the sake of Hashem, and use it for something which is so negative, for buying a coffin or a burial, a grave, and also shrouds. You don't do that, okay? So those are the 5 no's, and then he concludes, right? Shamati b'kol Hashem Elokai. I listened to the voice of my Lord. Asiti kochal shetzivitani. Okay, I did everything you told me to do, and like Rashi points out, I was happy in doing it, and I made others happy by giving to them. Okay, so with all this, there's something special here. That these 5 parameters of the giving off of the Trumot Ma'asrot are also indicating of the 5 levels of simcha needed in life. And these restrictions of no are really indicating on a deeper level types of simcha which are generated from the maaser, and because of that there are certain prohibitions of how to give the maaser, like with the 5 no's are, that show us what type of joy is the counteraction of the prohibition of giving the maaser. It shouldn't be done in that way. So let's take a look. First one was lo avarti mi mitzvotecha. Like we said, I didn't take from one crop and give from another crop. I have strawberries, I have oranges, I have tomatoes. I take off the maaser from this crop. I don't go from somewhere else. This corresponds to a very, very fake type of joy. There is a fake joy, which is where a person tells jokes. Rabbi Nachman, we spoke about this many times. He was very pro that a person should tell jokes and act silly and have laughter, because that brings a person to true joy. Okay? It's a person is down In a way, it's a fake type of a joy, but it's supposed to uplift the person in order to come to true joy. However, there is one type of joy which is forbidden, and that's called leitzanut, mockery, where you're making, like putting down another person purposely, making them feel down, and you by making them feel down and bad, trying through that to be happy, putting them down, embarrassing them, having a laugh on someone else, okay? That is mockery, and that is a forbidden type of joy. Even though it makes you crack up and laugh and everything, you put on someone's back a paper like in school, and it says "kick me," so everyone's kicking the person, and you're having a laugh out of hurting the person. That's mockery. That's wrong. That's terrible. Okay, so that's a laughter which is forbidden. That's the idea of a joy that comes from another place, and it's the wrong place. You have to have joy from where you are. When we say tell jokes and and act silly, so you're in your present state, and we're trying to bring you joy, to tap to genuine joy, even though it's fake, but it's still within you. When you start now mocking someone else, okay, that's the idea of taking from another crop, the tithe from another crop for this crop. No, you're not supposed to bring joy from someone foreign, and that's wrong. That's a mockery. Okay, rather, the joy has to be from the produce itself. That's the idea that you have to work on building joy, even fake joy, jokes and silliness and everything, and bring them to coming to fake laughter, to come to genuine laughter, but it has to be within your parameters, from within you. Don't start mocking someone else in order to be happy. So that's the correspondence to the first no. I didn't lo avarti mitzvah. I didn't pass over your mitzvot to try to go elsewhere to take a crop. In other words, to try to find laughter on someone else and make mockery over them. Number two, velo shachachti, and I didn't forget to bless you, Hashem, to praise you. This is so obvious. This is the joy generated by giving thanks to Hashem. Because what's the Jew doing here? He has produce now, and he's taking a blessing over it. Because I'm so happy that I have crops. Hashem has given me crops enough that I can give maaser. I can give tithes off to whoever it's designated, the Levites, the poor people, me in Yerushalayim, the Kohanim for the Truma, the Bikurim, the first fruits. I'm so happy over it that I have what to praise Hashem for. So this is the idea of milevarechecha, joy of thanksgiving. Because we said this many times, when a person goes into thanksgiving mode, it's like a different ballgame. It's like you're just, thank you Hashem, thank you so much. You recognize everything is Him, so you're no longer you. You've now just nullified yourself, and the focus is on just Hashem. I'm saying thank you Hashem, thank you Hashem. So this elevates a person automatically, that he's not in his place, that he's lifted up from all of his sorrow and difficulties just to give thanks. If he forgets about all the difficulties he's going through and just focuses on thanksgiving, so at that time of the giving thanks, everything is elevated. It's a type of joy that's lifting you up. So that's the second one. Number three, no. Lo achalti be'oni mimenu. Wow. I didn't eat from the maaser while I was in mourning. A mourner is forbidden to dance, forbidden to sing, no music. Again, in other words, I didn't eat it in a sad mode of mourning, because mourning, it's forbidden to dance and be happy and move around and play music. You're not allowed. So this is the way of simcha Rabbi Nachman reveals, of happiness generated by clapping your hands, putting on music, listening to music, singing a song, dancing, that movement, all that, a mourner is forbidden. If mourner is forbidden to go and start dancing and everything, that's especially in onen, right? So that's, again, the prohibition of sadness generated from a lethargy, heaviness, laziness, where a person doesn't move around. I'd rather I'm happy. So here the obligation is, I didn't eat it while in a state of aninut, where dancing and happiness and singing is forbidden. Meaning what? It's to what's the word? To give off, to produce a level of joy that's noticeable, that I can dance and be happy about it. Okay, that's number three. Number four, lo bi'arti mimenu betameh. I didn't clean off, remove, get rid of the maaser to give it to its designated places, or I was impure and it was pure, like we said earlier, or it's impure and I'm pure. This is the idea of finding a good point. In other words, the impurity can't be there. We have to make sure that it stays pure. and I didn't take off of it when it's pure, there's all these laws. In other words, what's the idea of making the crops pure or me being impure? That I'm negative about myself. I'm this, I'm that. Or when the produce becomes impure, it's like revealing a bad point. And he's saying here that the bi'ur of the masrot has to be in a pure state. What's the idea of the purity? That there's only good. There's a good point. There's no bad points here. Bad points are considered tameh, impure. What's a good point is tahor, is pure. The idea of taking off the maaser with purity is the idea of that I'm in a good attitude of having a good point. Okay, just reminds me of a little conversation between Rabbi Nachman and one of his followers in the book Rabbi Nachman's Wisdom, Sichot Aram, that once a follower came to Rabbi Nachman and complaining how he's so blemished and he's so low and everything's over and there's no hope for him. And Rabbi Nachman was trying to encourage him and the person wasn't listening. So at the end, Rabbi Nachman says, okay, so I have nobody to talk to, just leave, And as soon as Rabbi Nachman said that, the person says, no, but I do this, I do good. And Rabbi Nachman says, no, it's not enough. He said, well, what? But I do this, I do that. So he said, you see? Now you're finding your good points, huh? So now I want you to go with my lesson Azamra, lesson 282, Likutey Moharan, of finding your good points. That's the way. Finding the good points is tahor. Finding the bad points is tameh, impure. The maaser can only be taken off with purity, with joy, with the good points. That's the idea of taking it off in tahara and not in tuma. Number 5, velo natati mimenu lamet. I didn't take off from the maaser to purchase for the means of purchasing a coffin for burial or shrouds for a dead person. What's the idea of burial and the shrouds, etc.? We put the body in earth, okay, covered up for years, for centuries, for millennia, okay? All this for the future time when Mashiach will come, there'll be the third temple, and there'll be the resurrection of the dead. So all the Jews who are buried, which is the ideal place for Jews to be in storage, in waiting stage, is that we wait for that time that the body is resurrected. So the idea of burial is for the sake of the future. And the future high point is the joy of the future. Simcha le'atid. There's the joy of the future. The joy of the future, Rabbi Nachman expresses in lesson 24, is the greatest joy. Why? Because when a person is totally knocked down, he can't tell jokes. He can't be happy with music. He can't find his good points. He can't give thanks to Hashem. Everything is so bad. So the one final thing a person can do always is to connect to the future. To know and believe that in the end, everything's going to work out. So if everything's going to work out in the end, so why am I sad now? Everything is broken and miserable, but everything's going to work out. Even though things are finished, my life is finished, my marriage is finished, the children are off, and my health and this, and I'm Israel, still there's hope. What's the hope? That in the end, everything's going to be good. All the evil people did damage to us, they're going to be punished. And no one gets away with doing evil. And everything I suffered to try to come back to Hashem, I'll be repaid for everything. So if in the end everything's going to be good and set in the right place, why do I have to worry now? Take a look. Look at your life as part of the big film, of the big vision, the big picture. How in the end everything will work out. Okay, that's a positive way of looking at death. That death is for the sake of the future. That's why we bury someone. We don't cremate a body. We're not like the Hindus or whatever, that there are other religions where they burn and cremate. We store the body, and it's in waiting time. Even when it decays and decomposes, etc., and there's nothing left of the body, there's still some what's called rekav. The rekav, some ashes, some dust left from that body. From that, the body be rebuilt. So that's the positive vein of looking at it. And the negative is, oh, we lost a family member. Everything is sad. Their life is over. He was so good. He was so nice. So we're sad about the death of a lost loved one. But at the same time, we can be happy with hope that we're going to be reunited B'ezrat Hashem. There's going to come that time they're going to see my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, all the way up to Moshe Rabbeinu. We're going to see all the tzaddikim that we were taught about, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef HaTzaddik, the Baal Shem Tov, the Arizal, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Nachman. We're going to see them. It's amazing. Unbelievable. So there's the negative side and the positive side. So here is, I didn't give from the tithes to purchase a coffin and shrouds, which is the sad side. But the positive side is there's a resurrection, which is the goal of the Aron and the Tachrichim. So him not giving to that is saying that I didn't fall into the sadness of death, of losing someone and then feeling empty and feeling lacking and feeling missing. Rather, I put maaser only for positive things, and death, no, but in the positive hope that there will be a good future for everybody, B'ezrat Hashem, and therefore no need to give the maaser for coffins, for burials, for everything, because I have such a positive hope in the future resurrection, and the maaser has to match that level of that joy. So we don't give it towards a coffin and shrouds, etc. So here we see that the mitzvah of maaser, the Torah is emphasizing so much that has to be done b'simcha. That's part of the confession. Part of the confession that I'm giving off a type of tzedakah. It doesn't belong to me. I'm taking it off and giving it, and I do it with joy because I know and believe that even what I get for myself is a gift. I just work the land because Hashem commanded to do so in order to give off the ma'asrot, the tithes. And I'm happy about it. I'm happy to remind myself that everything is a gift in life, and I'm working just for free for the sake of Hashem's will in order to give off tzedakah. And because I'm doing Hashem's will, and it's such a great feat, especially the tithes of the Holy Land, that it generates the highest level of simcha that can shine to the rest of the world. And when these 5 levels of simcha spread to all the 4 corners, so there's a better chance for people to wake up, to be positive, the happiness generated. And by doing that, that people can have a clear perspective of life. And when people are listen rights, when people have a clear perspective of life, they begin to see the greatness of the Jewish people. They begin to see the greatness, and the Jews themselves begin to see how special it is to be a Jew, and no need to try to copy and imitate and be like the nations. And the nations themselves will see the greatness of Am Yisrael because of the joy generated, and they will all encourage the Jews to come back to Eretz Yisrael, and they will bring them back, B'ezrat Hashem. We should see this very soon in our days, and the schut of the mitzvah of Ma'aser of the Eretz Yisrael to generate this joy through the entire world, B'ezrat Hashem. Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova.